Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from AnthonysCustoms, and for this review, we are looking at the Variable Action Heroes One Piece Sanji figure from Mega House. You guys know I'm pretty happy with this line so far. They've done a really good job of making these anime-accurate characters. Some of the figures have had some issues, nothing major. Overall, they've been pretty solid, and this guy is a pretty good example of what they can do really well. They did some really nice things on this guy. But again, there are a couple of issues. I'm hoping they work it out, but it's still pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 7.5 inches, almost exactly. And of course, that'll vary as you pose him a little bit differently. I mean, anytime a figure has torso articulation, it can adjust the height a little bit, and of course, the legs will as well. And he's just about 19 centimeters, so they are a little bit taller than you would expect most import figures to be, but they're all pretty well scaled amongst themselves, so that's kind of nice. You'll notice his proportions seem a little bit odd, but they're fairly accurate to the anime. One Piece doesn't have the most realistic art style, so I think that's okay. You'll notice he's got pretty nice paintwork, not a ton, but what's there is done pretty well. You can see the buttons on his jacket are very nicely done, they're nice and clean. The tie is actually a separate piece of plastic, so everything's clean in there. The sleeves, those are nicely done. There's a little bit of shading throughout the skin to give it a little bit of realism, so that's pretty cool. The boots, or the shoes, have a nice glossy finish to give them that kind of patent leather or dress shoe look. And then the face and hair, nice shading throughout and nice clean paint apps throughout as well. So very happy about that. The one issue I have is that the bottom part of his hair back here is a much more like golden yellow rather than lighter yellow. So that's a bit of a bummer. It's not the best situation, but it's not a deal breaker. It's not terrible. Before we get into the figure anymore, though, let's talk about accessories. We do have one interchangeable hairpiece, which comes with his glasses. The glasses are actually part of the hair, but it's very nicely sculpted and nicely painted, so that's cool. We have a bunch of different faces. We have the kind of neutral face. We have the face where he's looking off to the side and kind of either smiling or kind of angrily grimacing. We have the face where his mouth is open. He's definitely kind of angry and his pupils are a little bit white. We have the relatively neutral face with the cigarette in his mouth. We have a face where he's smiling with the cigarette in his mouth. And then we have the heart-shaped eye face with the cigarette in his mouth. So lots of different options there. We do have a few hands. We have the two fist hands. We have the two kind of relaxed hands. And we have one hand where he's holding the cigarette, which is very nicely done. We do have these other hands that are really just kind of nubs that are meant to go into his coat like pocket, like he's putting his hands in his pockets, so that's kind of cool. And then lastly, we have the flame effect leg piece, which interchanges for the entire lower leg, and that lets him do his signature moves. So a very nice array of accessories. I'm very happy about that. As far as the articulation on this guy, it's pretty good. My biggest gripe is that his head does have that weird joint system that we saw with, who was that? Was that Nico? I think that was Nico Robin, if memory serves. So let me pull the hair off so you can see. It's a little stiff, but that's okay. There we go, and I'll pull the face off, and then you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. Be careful with the faces with the cigarettes, by the way, you don't want to break that. So we have a ball hinge at the top of the neck, which is fine. I don't like it compared to a ball peg, but it'll do. So you have the hinge part that lets the head move forward and back, and of course you can rotate it around, but you can't lean it because up here, normally with a ball hinge, you're connected to a ball peg so the head can move around. On this, the head cannot move on that top part of the peg. The way it's actually keyed for the two pieces, you only get the hinge out of that ball and the rotation. So it really, really is not an effective joint design. It should just be a double ball peg. It's not a good design really like that at all. I don't like that. Luckily, the neck itself has a ball peg so you can move the neck around however you want to. So the articulation at the top isn't going to make that much of a difference, but it's definitely not ideal. I wish they would stop doing that. It's really, really not a good design. Of course, with the neck and the head combined, you have plenty of range. It's not a problem, practically speaking, but technically it's no good. For the shoulders, it's a very nice, though complex design. We have a butterfly joint, which lets everything move around very well. So you can move those arms basically all over the place. Very, very nice. We have a vertical butterfly joint also, which lets the arm go up very high. And then we have our standard ball peg ball hinge combination. So the arm can move around in that socket on its ball peg, and then as you saw, we have the ball hinge, which gives him really good range, basically in every direction. And where that ball hinge connects to the bicep, that's where you get your bicep swivel. Very limited though, so that's kind of a bummer. I don't care for that. Luckily, with the butterfly joints, you won't need to use that bicep swivel all that much, so I guess that's tolerable. We have our double jointed elbow, which works very nicely. I don't care for the way they design the elbow cap, but it's not a huge deal. It's okay. You can get some rotation out of it right here, so if you really need that bicep swivel, you have that. For the wrists, we have a ball hinge. Be careful, these guys are known to have fairly weak ball hinges in their wrists, so as you're swapping out the hands, use a little bit of caution. Let's see how stiff they are. Yeah, the hands are on there pretty good. They're going to take a little bit of force, so just be careful. You shouldn't have any problems. I don't think I've broken any. One of them fell apart as I was doing it once. I think that was on Ace, but I was able to just snap them back together. So just be careful and you should be okay. We have a ball peg for the diaphragm joint and another ball peg at the lower torso, so you can pretty much move him however you want to. The upper joint does not have as much range as I would like, but it's not bad. He can lean far enough forward. He can lean a little bit back, not so far, but enough. And then, of course, side to side is okay. Now, the reason that minimal range is okay on the torso is because the hips work really well. The bottom part of his coat is 2 separate pieces. Well, actually, it's 3. This piece right here, and then this piece here, and then this piece on the back. And it does look a little bit cluttered if he's just standing there neutrally, but since they're all able to move around on their own little ball pegs, it kind of allows for the posability to work really well. So you can bring these hips, which are essentially just T-jointed ball hinge hips. He can almost do the complete splits, so no problem kicking. You can bring the leg really far forward. Thanks to the coat being in separate pieces, it just kind of stretches. So you won't really have any trouble having him pose for his kicks. I do dislike the fact that they sculpted the crotch of the pants in a little bit of a weird way. It kind of gives him a camel toe situation. Not the best. But otherwise, it's pretty good, and there's a little bit of extra play in the design. It's a ball peg instead of a straight peg for the hip, so you can move those legs around a little bit farther than you normally could. And you do get a thigh swivel in there, though it's a little bit stiff. For the knees, it's a double jointed knee. Works really nicely. No complaints there. It looks good enough. I think that's okay. And then for the ankles, we have this, let's use this one. We have this cap, which is just more pants hanging down to hide everything, and what kind of joint is that? It's usually a ball peg, but it feels a little bit different. Let's see. Huh, I can't get it to rotate. There we go. Well, it feels like it's either a hinged ball peg, so it's a ball peg in the ankle and then a hinge down here, or it could be a ball hinge. It doesn't feel like a ball hinge, but it could be. I'm not sure. I can't see it. I thought it was just a ball peg, but it doesn't seem that way. So it's okay. You don't get the best range, though, so it's not the best, but it'll do. And then we have a toe hinge, which is actually pretty nice. So ultimately, you can see there's a lot of good stuff going on in this guy, but also some kind of questionable design choices. And that's pretty much the story for all of these one-piece figures. I still think they're very nice and worth it. You just have to be aware of those issues as you have the figure. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. So you want to turn on notifications because we talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. We live stream all the time, 3 times a week at least. Lots of fun stuff for you to watch, so make sure you come back for that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.